Hi, Ivan here from Clubscraft, where we help sports coaches spend more time with their athletes. And in the last video, we covered swim performance testing, and now it's time to move on into the cycling realm, where depending on what you are looking for and the equipment you have, you are either going to do a graded exercise, maybe a time trial, and if you have a power meter, you're going to go in and do some power testing. So let's dissect each of them and see what you need to do. The first way you can test your performance is with a bike graded exercise. So you can either do this on a trainer or on the road. But in both cases, you are going to need an assistant who is going to be writing down some stats that you are going to provide to them. If you're using a trainer, they will be very close to you and they will be monitoring your progress, and your goal is to warm up for 10 to 15 minutes and then start really going into the testing. So you will be at something like a 10 out of 20, 12 out of 20 effort level, and then you will slowly start building up it every minute. You want to increase your perceived exertion level by a point, and you will always have your assistant write down your average heart rate and your rate of perceived exertion, and then you're starting to slowly build it up every minute. And one of the key things here is for your assistant to start listening to your breathing and write down at which level and which heart rate your breathing starts to get heavier. That's basically the anaerobic threshold when your breathing becomes labored, and you are going to starting to slowly fade away. And after a few more laps, you're going to be done, and you can start putting this data into a graph. And then next time when you repeat the same performance test, you will be able to see the shift that the graph is making. Ideally, every subsequent graph is going to shift slightly to the right, because for the same effort level, your heart rate is going to be lower, and you are just going to feel stronger and being able to push a lot harder. If you are going to do a time trial, you will have to find a place where you can have, let's say, half a mile or something like a kilometer loop, and then you're going to go around and around and trying to make each subsequent lap a little faster. And you're again going to do something like 8, 10, 12 loops until you start to fade away. And every time you cannot complete the next lap quicker than the last one, this means that your test is done, and then you can start analyzing the data. And here again, you're going to see a shift to the right if you have been training properly on your subsequent tests. If you have a power meter, there are different options which you can use. One of the most popular ones is to have a good 15 to 20 minute warm up, where you can add a few small sprints just to warm up your body even better, and then go into a 20-minute steady effort where you want to keep the power as equal as possible. So you don't want to start too hard and then fade away. Also, you don't want to start too conservative and then feel like you could have pushed a little harder. So it's something that's really tricky for especially for people who are doing this for the very first time, because you really don't know how long 20 minutes is until you really have to push it. And once these 20 minutes are over, you can record your average heart rate as well as your average power output, and then keep this for later and analyze it, and compare it on subsequent tests. Another test that is very popular is the critical power test, where you do 1 minute all-out effort, 6-minute all-out effort, 12-minute all-out effort, and a 30-minute all-out effort. And those 4 data points will give you your power profile, and then from those 4 data points you can extrapolate your 60-minute, your 90-minute, and even beyond to see how your which power outputs you theoretically can sustain. This is one of the hardest ways to determine your fitness, but is one of the more accurate ones. You don't have to do all of them in a single session. You can spread them out throughout multiple days, which is probably also the recommended one because you really want to be as fresh as possible for each individual effort. And again, you can then start analyzing your data and compare it to new readings once you start repeating those. One of the things that you have to keep in mind is to stick to a single protocol, because mixing them won't give you enough data to really know if you are on the right track or not. So stick to one way of assessing your fitness throughout the season and then start comparing it, and then you'll know if you're on the right track or not. There are many different things that can happen during those tests because you are going to go to pretty much your maximum effort, and your performance is going to depend on a bunch of different things like the weather, the temperature, what you ate, how well your sleep was on the day or the days before. So if there are some discrepancies, you shouldn't really be too upset about them. You just need to see and use some common sense and make the best judgment and see if your training is progressing in the way you want it to be. There are different apps you can use like Training Peaks and I guess Strava as well, which will give you your stats after every recorded session. So you sometimes get your power profile based on the last 20-30 bike rides, or you can get your training zones as well based on different training sessions that you did. So you can use also those tools to see if you are progressing in the right way. And tomorrow we are going to talk about the run fitness assessments, and the next week we are going to start looking into this data and trying to analyze and come up with a training plan for the rest of the season based on those results. And once we know where our weaknesses are, we can then start applying them and making sure we start improving in the areas that we need for our target races and to get better and have a better race in the end. So until tomorrow, see you then. Bye bye.